We're going to talk about phytochemicals and antioxidants today. And I have to tell you that I have for a long time been kind of confused about what is a phytochemical and what is an antioxidant. And so stay tuned and I'll tell you what I learned, okay? So these are the questions that we'll answer today. What are phytochemicals and antioxidants? How many phytochemicals are there? Why do we need them? How much do we need? How do phytochemicals work in the body? And then some consumer questions, some things that you might be interested in knowing. So, what are phytonutrients? Did you see what I did there? What did I do? Change the name from phytochemical to phytonutrients. So phyto comes from the Greek word phyton, and phyton means plants. So phytochemicals are the chemical nutrients found in plants. Phytonutrient is becoming increasingly popular. It seems that chemical sort of has a negative connotation in our world today. We talk a lot about chemicals, and so nutrient has a more positive association. So phytonutrients refer to natural chemical compounds found in plants. And these chemicals make up the color of the plant foods, okay? But we're going to find out a little bit beyond that, something else that I wasn't fully aware of until I did my research on this in-service today. So, what about the antioxidant? Well, antioxidants are phytonutrients. But phytonutrients are not necessarily antioxidants. So, antioxidant refers to the way that the phytonutrient works in the body. We tend to talk about antioxidants more than phytonutrients. And so that's because we hear a lot about antioxidants these days in reference to fighting the common cold, in reference to fighting inflammation, things like that. So that's where the antioxidants work. And we hear about it a lot. So they are vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium, also flavonoids, polyphenols, and carotenoids, okay? So there's some other fancy words we're going to use later. So the question then is, are they the same thing, or phytonutrients the same things as vitamins? Well, no, they're not. At one time, researchers thought that phytonutrients or phytochemicals were more like vitamins, and so they classified them as vitamins. And flavonoids, for example, were known as vitamin P, and indols and glucosolates were known as vitamin U. We don't use those terms anymore because researchers discovered that phytochemicals are not needed to make our body function. Vitamins and minerals are needed for the function of our bodies, but phytonutrients are not. Vitamin deficiency can result in a disease. So let's think about vitamin C deficiency. Anyone know what disease you can get if you have vitamin C deficiency? Scurvy. Scurvy. Yeah, so scurvy is one of those things that, and how did they find that out? It was with the sailors that were staying on ships for so long, and they didn't have any access for fresh fruits or vegetables, and so they got scurvy. And so does anybody know why anything else about this story? Do you know why they called the British soldiers the limeys? Yeah, because they gave them lines on the ships. They found out that if you give these sailors some citrus fruit, vitamin C, that they won't get scurvy while they're on their long voyages. So that's a little sideline. But anyway, so vitamins help with body functions, and the deficiency can result in disease. Phytochemicals, though, have been proven to be beneficial for the prevention of disease, the reverse of some disorders, and they work with, in tandem with vitamins and minerals. But they don't cause a disease if you don't have enough. You don't get a disease from having a deficiency, okay? So there are more than 5,000 individual phytonutrients that have been identified at this point. There may be a lot more, we just don't know. They're discovering more and more every day. So often in a group, they have the same effect on the human body. So sometimes they act as an antioxidant, and there will be a group of fruits and vegetables that provide the antioxidant or the phytochemical that works in a similar way on the body. The majority of phytonutrients are subcategorized as carotenoids, chlorophyll, polyphenols, and organosulfur. We'll get into that in just a little bit. So those are kind of the main classifications. And then no specific, everybody always says, well, which phytonutrients or phytochemicals or antioxidants should I really pay attention to? Well, there's not one that is the be-all, end-all, okay? They're all needed. The main thing is balance, variety, and moderation. I always talk about that, don't I? Balance, variety, and moderation. So it's to not overdo it with one particular fruit or vegetable, and to not, just have one or the other, but to have a big multitude of different ones. So that's the main idea, is to have a lot of variety. So let's talk about the carotenoids. There are more than 600 that have been identified to date, and they are what make the orange, the reds, the yellows. So that's what makes the color pigment in things like, let's think of some, carrots, what else? Grapes, yellow peppers, carrots, sweet potatoes, cantaloupe, all of those things that are red or yellow or orange. So there's two classes. They're the carotenes and the xanthophylls. And their biologic activity is as an antioxidant. So remember, an antioxidant isn't a phytochemical and vice versa. They have a light filtering aspect to them. They help with intercellular communication, so communication between the cells in our bodies. And they also work on the immune system. So when we think about those red and yellow and orange fruits and vegetables, not only do they have the carotenoids, mainly the carotenes, but what else do those vegetables and fruits tend to have? Vitamin C. So see how those things work in tandem? So those things like red bell peppers and sweet potatoes are really good for us because they not only have the carotene, but they also have vitamin C. Now, not all of those are high in vitamin C, but they do have some. So that, both the keratin and the vitamin C will help with the immune system. Chlorophyll. What is chlorophyll? You all know from science, right? Chlorophyll is what provides photosynthesis for plants, and it's responsible for the color green. So the best sources are dark leafy greens. So if you want to, we're going to get into which one of these help with what disease process or what health process. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But if it's something that you're concerned about, you might want to up your intake of dark leafy greens. So what are those? Kale, spinach, Swiss chard. Yeah, all of those nice, bright leafy greens. The brighter, I say, the better, okay? Their biologic activity is to bind to and inhibit the absorption of carcinogens. So they help with to take the carcinogens and get rid of them in our bodies. So if we are worried about cancer-causing things in our environment, then an increase in dark leafy greens would be something that we would want to do. You know, sometimes you hear about things that might be present in the environment that might cause cancer, and so that's what these nutrients do for us, to help with that. And they also are an antioxidant. They have antioxidant activity. The polyphenols, there's two classes. There's the flavonoids, and then the anthocyanins, the flavonols, the flavones, the isoflavones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just got tired of typing those words. So the flavonoids account for about 2/3 of the polyphenols in our diet. So about 2/3 of the polyphenols are attributed to the flavonoids. Their biological activity is to help regulate cell growth, the proliferation or the increase of good cells, and the death of bad cells. So they can help get rid of especially cancer cells, okay? They also help stimulate the detoxification enzyme. So what do we think about when we think about detoxification? Getting rid of the bad stuff. So the toxins, there are a lot of toxins in our environment. What do they come from? They come from things like pesticides, they come from pollution, they come from drugs, you know, some of the hairspray. Yeah. So they help get rid of those things. A lot of even the pharmaceutical drugs that we take, there are things in those that our body needs to kind of detoxify from. So there are good things, but there are also some things in there that we need to get rid of. So that's what the polyphenols help with, is to get rid of those toxins. Also, it helps to inhibit tumor invasion. So once again, very good for cancer prevention, okay? So the next thing is the organosulfur compounds. This was really hard for me to learn to say, but they are found in cruciferous vegetables. So cruciferous vegetables are those broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, all those things. And now that I learned that organosulfur compounds, it makes sense that they're in these cruciferous vegetables, because that's what the odor is when we cook those vegetables. It's that sulfur odor. If you've ever been around sulfur, you know what that smell is. So the biological activity, they help metabolize and eliminate drugs, toxins, and carcinogens. So once again, they help with detoxification. They help inhibit cancer cell growth. They may help cause the death of cancer cells. And they also help with that anti-inflammatory and antibacterial activity. So anti-inflammatory is one of those things that we're thinking a lot about as we get older, because what do most of us have caused by inflammation? Arthritis, yeah. I mean, we're just subject to have it just as we get older, because our joints are wearing out, and it's the inflammation that causes the pain. So we can help fight that pain and that inflammation by diet, and that is eating a lot of those cruciferous vegetables. How many do like all of those cruciferous vegetables and eat a lot of them? Yeah. Some of you didn't put your hand up, and that's because some of us just really don't like them, and that's because of that sulfur smell and flavor. They're very strong. So find ways that you can eat them. If you think about like making a broccoli soup tastes a little bit better than just straight broccoli to some of us. Or do like the kids do, dip your broccoli in ranch dressing, and that may make it go down. Try it cooked, try it raw. I'll talk a little bit more about cooking and raw in a few minutes. So, and then that'll give you some information, because we often wonder, is it best to eat them raw? So we'll answer that question in a little while.
Debbie, bottom it said chopping and chewing.
Oh, chopping and chewing. I forgot that was on this slide. Chopping and chewing improves the action of these cruciferous factors.
You chop them up small.
Well, it releases the good part of them and makes it easier for us to ingest it and to absorb it. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Yeah. So by chewing them up and chopping them up, you can increase their anti-inflammatory and antibacterial and all those other activities as well. Okay, so why do we need these phytonutrients that we're talking about? Well, there has been evidence that they help with reducing the risk of colon and stomach cancer. Part of the reason for fruits and the importance of fruits and vegetables is that they help reduce those cancers just because of the fiber in them. But now we're finding out that it's not just the fiber, it's not just the vitamin C that helps with that, because these phytochemicals are in the high vitamin C foods. So we're finding out that it's also because of these phytochemicals. They also help to build healthy blood. So when we're eating lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, then we're getting a really good blood supply that helps keep us healthy, helps transport our blood, helps transport all of the nutrients throughout our bodies. So that's really important. They also have those anti-tumor properties. So that helps with to slow the growth of tumors if you already have them. And that's why with a lot of the cancer research these days, they're finding out that cancer treatment is so much more effective with a really, really good diet. So it's really important. It's hard to do with cancer treatment because people with cancer have a hard time eating. But we're finding out that if we can find ways to help people eat better when they're in cancer treatment, that they get better faster. They help neutralize carcinogens. So those carcinogens are the things that cause cancer. So remember that all of the phytochemicals and we'll call them phytonutrients, are really helping with that cancer prevention. They also help regulate the white blood cells. They may also help reverse the effects of some diseases because they bind with toxic things and help excrete them from the body. They also, remember, help with the immune system. So anything that helps with the immune system can help reverse any kind of disease. So our immune system is very important for disease prevention, but also for reversing the effects of a disease. They also help to balance blood glucose and may help with wound healing as well. So there's a lot of reasons to really pay attention to our diet so that we can make sure that we're getting plenty of the good phytonutrients that we need. So how much do we need? A lot of times we think that maybe we should take a vitamin or a mineral supplement because we're not getting enough fruits and vegetables. And there are some phytonutrient supplements out there, but it's really important to just get them from our diet. Consumption will bring a lot of health benefits, so eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, and I've ignored whole grains through this talk. The whole grains also have a lot of phytonutrients, so just remember that. Also, it depends on your environment and your lifestyle. We can't eliminate free radicals in our lives, but we can help reduce them and reduce the destructive part of them. And I'll stop here and talk to you a little bit about, this is about antioxidants. So we're only talking about antioxidants right now. And I'm actually going to pretty much read this. You don't have this. This is just something I have. Antioxidants are substances found naturally in food. They protect your body cells from damage caused by harmful molecules called free radicals. So let's talk about that. Free radicals. Some free radicals are formed from normal body processes when it uses oxygen. Others come from pollutants like cigarette smoke. Antioxidants will help protect yourselves from the damage caused by free radicals. How many of you have been to one of my classes where I talked about antioxidants and I refer to it as rust? I talked about it acts like preventing rust. Okay, so I found this. I was so happy I found this in writing, and it helps me to explain it better. So just for a moment, think of your body like your car. It rusts when the metal in the car reacts with oxygen. If you cover your car with a protective coating, it doesn't rust as quickly. So similarly, eating foods that contain antioxidants every day can help protect your body from free radical damage. So that's what it is. It's like those antioxidants put a coating around things and help protect it from those free radicals, which when they interact with oxygen, cause damage in our bodies. So does that make sense? Okay, so I was so happy to find that. Small things make me happy. So, depending on your environment and lifestyle, these phytonutrients can't prevent free radicals, but they can reduce them and reduce their destruction. So what it talked about in this little article was pollutants such as cigarette smoke. What other pollutants do you think are out there? We have a lot of things, don't we? Ever stand at a bus stop or, stand out by the helicopter when it's getting ready to take off? We have a lot of smelly things in the atmosphere. And so that helps with that, not just the cigarette smoke that we all, even though with all of our new laws, we all seem to come in contact with it at times anyway. So these phytonutrients can help with that. So high-risk groups should increase fruits and vegetables to 5 servings daily as a minimum, and 8 to 12 servings is recommended for at-risk individuals. So what does this mean? If you are in a high-risk group, or let's say you have a family member who's been diagnosed with cancer, or you have a family member who has some kind of an inflammatory disease like Crohn's disease, or fibromyalgia, or some of those things that are really inflammatory diseases, then it might be really important for you to really pay attention to your diet and increase phytonutrients in your diet to help you hopefully prevent that. So if you think you're at high risk, or if you live near a source of pollution and you can't avoid that, then it might be really important for you to pay attention to your diet. General requirements, again, is at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. The other thing is if you decrease the amount of meat you eat and increase the amounts of fruits and vegetables, there seems to be kind of an interaction there where there's more health benefits by reducing the meat. So, that's where you pay attention to the My Plate. What does it show us to do? It shows us to use just a small amount of meat or protein. This includes just meat, not like vegetable protein. But just reduce that. Once upon a time, our plates were half filled with the meat, weren't they? And then we had maybe a few vegetables and some grains. And now we're doing just the opposite. We want to focus on fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And the meat portion should be like what we used to have as a veggie portion, just a small amount. And then when you do use meat, opt for lean poultry and fish. So that seems to be really helpful when you're wanting to increase your phytonutrient intake and decrease your risk for cancer and other diseases.
What constitutes a serving?
A serving of meat,
Of
of the vegetables. Of vegetables, especially the non-starchy vegetables, pretty much all you want. But a serving technically is a half a cup if it's cooked and a cup if it's raw. So if we're talking about lettuce or something like that that you're going to put as the base of your salad, a cup would be a serving. But 2 cups would be a great base for a nice salad. And then if it's something like cherry tomatoes or something like that, it's a half a cup. And then anything that's cooked, like if you cook your green beans or whatever, it's a half a cup. But when it comes to vegetables, especially non-starchy vegetables, that's why this says 12 servings, because you can really have all you want. The more, the better, because they're not only good for you because of the phytochemicals in them, but because of the fiber and because of the vitamins and the minerals. So really, more the merrier on vegetables. And that's on the non-starchy vegetables. So the ones that we want to pay closer attention to just because of their caloric content are the starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes and potatoes and winter squash, corn, peas. Because they're starchier, they have more calories per serving. So you want to limit those, but you don't have to eliminate them. And they are very, like sweet potatoes are very high in phytonutrients. So they're a very good food. So just have, a half a cup cooked, or have a whole cup cooked and count it as 2 of your servings. So, and the other thing is to watch what you put on those things. So that's part of it too. If you're making a nice big salad, be mindful of what you're using on it for a dressing. Make your own, or use just olive oil and vinegar and make a nice vinaigrette. So just be mindful of that. And that's if you need to be mindful of that. As far as the fruit, a serving is like a small apple or orange or banana would be a serving, or a half a cup of cut up fruit, or about a cup of cup size of anything else. So we talked about grapes one time, and grapes get this, I don't know why you have to count your grapes, but anyway, you don't have to count grapes, just eat grapes, especially the red ones. So how do they work in the body? Once again, antioxidants. Research shows that people with a high intake of the 4 plant-based food groups have a much lower risk of degenerative disease such as cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension. So the 4 plant-based food groups are fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Legumes are the things like lentils and beans, okay? So people who eat that are really able to fight off cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and heart hypertension. Once again, that's not only because of the phytochemicals, but also because of the vitamins, minerals, and the fiber in those foods. So that's, they all work in conjunction with one another. Remember that the free radicals in our body cause deterioration and destruction of healthy cells. So that's why we want to eat especially those foods that have the antioxidants. And then the phytonutrient-rich foods will quickly activate enzymes that destroy free radicals before they can cause harm. And if you eat enough of the phytonutrients and you have them in your diet all the time, they really do act quickly. Have you ever maybe traveled or something and not eaten really well for a few days, or even not traveled, but just for a few days you're just sort of off your game? We tend to, if we're eating right and getting good exercise and lots of water and what have you, we tend to stay healthy, but just go off that program for a little while and we get sick. So that's the reason to have them all the time in your diet. Other ways that phytonutrients work in our bodies, some of them have antibacterial effects, some have anti-inflammatory effects. Remember, some of them are detoxification action, and then the anti-carcinogenic. Okay, so these are some of those consumer questions that I said that we would answer. So, does the color of a fruit or vegetable indicate what phytonutrients it contains? Well, color is one good indicator, but not exclusive. So this is what I found out. I'm so excited every time I learn something new. Many, but not all phytonutrients are pigments that give the plants color. So some of those that do give the color, remember, are the things like the chlorophyll and the carotenoids. But some are colorless. Who knew? I didn't. And some are responsible for the taste / odor of foods. So those are the things that the sulfur one. Remember the sulfur we talked about? So some of them are responsible for taste. And then products of the same color family. So if you think about orange, let's just think about orange. So what do we have that's orange? Carrots, oranges, sweet potatoes, winter squash, butternut squash, some bell peppers. Okay, so those products that are all orange will have a different number, a different amount of the same phytonutrient. So they won't all have as much. So that's, remember again, back to variety, is to make sure that you're not just eating sweet potatoes to get your carotene, right? Just have a variety. Okay, what affects the amount of phytonutrients in foods? Well, there are some genetic components of that, the genes of the actual plant and the actual fruit or vegetable, but also the environment. And so what soil they're grown in, and we hear about this a lot, don't we, about some of our produce not being grown in good soil, and it might be lower in nutrients. And so that's one of the things that we are concerned about, aren't we, in our world, where the soil is getting used up. So the soil would affect it. The altitude at which the food has been grown, the climate, whether it's hot and dry, or mid-temperature and moisture. What do you think? I don't know the answer to this, but what do you think if it's grown in a hot, dry place?
I think it's probably not as beneficial.
That's what I'm thinking. It's probably, it has to work harder to grow.
For wine.
Yeah, exactly. So things have to work harder to grow in that hot, dry climate, don't they? And so I would think that it wouldn't be as beneficial. But I don't know that for sure. But also the temperature, the plant maturity. Is the plant a mature plant? Has it been allowed to grow to its fullest potential? Or has it been picked early? I always wonder about those little tiny vegetables that you see sometimes around the holidays where they're marketed because they're so cute. But I wonder if they're, are they grown just to be that big, or are they just immature and not at their full potential? Processing methods. So the way they are processed, the way they are cared for, or the way that they're prepared for eating. So what part of the fruit or vegetable contains the phytonutrients? Well, anything that's edible has phytonutrients, but they tend to be concentrated in the skin of the fruit or the vegetable. So it's really good to eat the peel. We've been told that our whole lives, haven't we, to eat the peel, to make sure that you eat the peel. So that's part of why we do that, but there are probably some other reasons to eat the peel too. And do fresh fruits and vegetables have more phytonutrients than canned, frozen, and dried? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Carotenoids in vegetables and fruits are actually more easily absorbed if they're cooked. So if you think about that, we might think, oh, if we could only, like a raw sweet potato, but we have to cook it. Well, that's good because we can more easily absorb those phytonutrients if they're cooked. The other thing is when we dehydrate fruits or vegetables, what do? We take out the water, so the phytonutrients are more, they're more concentrated in dried fruits and vegetables. Are phytonutrients stored in the body? Well, yes and no. Just like vitamins and minerals, there are some phytonutrients that are fat soluble and some that are water soluble. We've talked before in my classes about vitamins that are water soluble and that it's really hard to get too many of those vitamins. And that's why I often say if you're not sure, go ahead and have a vitamin supplement, because most of the vitamins in our vitamin supplements, over-the-counter supplements, are water soluble, and if our body doesn't want them or need them, they're just flushed out. So it's the same way with the phytonutrients. If they're fat soluble, like the carotenoids are, they can be stored in the body like fat soluble vitamins are. So that's why it's important to just get them from the food we eat and not do a supplement. There are supplements, but it's better just to get it from the whole food. Flavonoids tend to be more water soluble, so they're rarely stored in the body. Any excess is just washed out of the body. And so that's why it's really important to eat those foods often so that you're getting them all along the way. Oh, that's it. Okay, well, we're going to go through the handouts, okay? So let's look at the one that's black and white like this. It's a table. Everyone have that one? Okay, so this is not a very pretty handout. It's sort of blah, but I like this handout because it tells what the phytonutrient is over on the left, and it tells what food sources and the health benefits there in the middle, and then what food sources. So, Margaret, what was your?
Flavonoids. What foods have flavonoids?
So look at the third thing down on the front page, bioflavonoids. So you can see over there that if you are concerned about any kind of damage to your cells, or if you're concerned about cancer, or if you're concerned about like pollution or something like that, then you would want to eat a lot of apricots, citrus fruits, berries, broccoli, cherries, grapes, papaya, cantaloupe, plums, and tomatoes. I can't think of anything better. If you are concerned about your blood and you want to make sure that you're getting a lot of chlorophyll, because chlorophyll helps build healthy blood, and it also helps protect against cancer, helps with wound healing, then you're going to want to focus on green vegetables, things like wheat and barley grass, spirulina, and calera. I don't know anything about those last two. But the wheat and barley grass, if you go to the grocery store, have you seen those little trays with the grass in it? That's what those are. A lot of people use those grasses in smoothies and things like that. And that's because they do have a lot of antioxidants, and they're very beneficial for health. So then if you were, let's say you're worried about your eyes. Let's say that you're having some eye problems. If you look down to the next to the last thing, that's lutein, and it's a powerful antioxidant that protects against macular degeneration. So look over there and you'll see that leafy green vegetables would be good for you to have. Avocado, kiwi fruit, mango, papaya, peaches, oranges, pears, and plums. So those are the things that would help you get enough lutein. So pay attention to this handout when you're at home and kind of go with it and keep it handy in the kitchen when you're preparing your meals and see what you're eating and what it's going to help with. this one, this handout just gives you a little bit more information on just a quick reference. So what your dark green vegetables, your yellow and orange vegetables, etc. have in them. And then on the back, it tells you, it talks about those subcategories that we talked about, the carotenoids and chlorophyll, etc. And then it tells you over on the other side what the biological activity for those is. So this is just another, something that I went over in my slide presentation, but this is just a kind of a down and dirty review for you. And then the other handouts are just some colorful handouts about antioxidants that I thought provided just a few fun facts and basically the same thing, talking about what the phytochemical or phytonutrient is, what its activity in the body is, and then where you find it in your diet. So, yes? White potatoes? Well, white potatoes are pretty healthy, actually. They are a starchy vegetable, so they do have calories, but they are what we call a complex carbohydrate, especially when you eat the peeling. And so that's really good to help with your blood glucose. It has really good fiber in it. And then white potatoes are high in vitamin C. So they're a good food, very good food, especially when you eat the peel. And potatoes in general, like Yukon Gold or red potatoes, things like that, are like a russet potato, so they're all kind of the same. And then the sweet potatoes also are a starchy vegetable. They also have the vitamin C, lots of complex carbohydrates, but they also have a lot of these phytonutrients that we talked about, and that's what causes them to be the orange or reddish color. Margaret, did you have something?
What do you recommend for whole grains? I have a hard time working with whole grains into our diet.
Okay, whole grains. Now, I didn't talk a whole lot about whole grains, so I'll take this as my opportunity to do that. Whole grains also have a lot of phytonutrients in them. They also are a very good carbohydrate source because they're complex carbohydrates. They have a lot of fiber. So how do we work them into our diet? And that's a really good question. One of the easiest things, of course, is to use whole grain breads. That's the easiest thing, is to make your sandwiches on whole grain bread. And so, if you're not a sandwich eater and you're not a bread eater, there are other things to do. Oatmeal is like the very easiest. And there are some really good oatmeals out there that are instant. They take a little bit longer than instant, but they are really good. They're still cut, and they're instant oatmeals, and they're very, very good. So that's an easy way to do that. People are doing overnight oats. Anybody here do overnight oats? Okay, so that's where you put your oats in a container and put milk and berries and things in it, and you set it in the refrigerator overnight. I just think I wouldn't like cold oatmeal, but a lot of people are liking that. And another thing is baked oatmeal. Anyone done baked oatmeal? So there are recipes for baked oatmeal that the baked oatmeal turns out similar to a muffin. So that's a pretty good way to have it. So you can just Google baked oatmeal and you can find a recipe for that. But then there are some other really good and really delicious whole grains. So we've heard about the ancient grains. They're making a comeback, aren't they? All those ancient grains. So those are things. Barley is not really an ancient grain, but barley is a great grain. It takes a while to cook. Plan on 45 minutes to cook barley. It doesn't have to be it really shouldn't be mushy. It should have a little bit of a bite to it, but it is very good and can be the base for casseroles, the base for soup. You can just use it as a side dish like you would brown rice. I make a barley pilaf, so I put, besides the barley, I put some onion, some chopped up carrots, some parsley, things like that. You can also make a, what is that Israeli salad?
Tabbouleh. Tabbouleh?
Tabbouleh. Tabbouleh out of barley. Yeah, couscous makes really good tabbouleh, but you can do barley and it's really excellent. So if you like that, it's real flavorful because it has mint and it has parsley and olive oil and vinegar, and it's really intensely flavored, and it keeps really well in the refrigerator for a few days, so you can make a batch and then have it along the way. And then there's, other whole grains. People are gonna probably have to help me. Quinoa, amaranth, farro. All of those are really, really good. Millet. I did a whole grain talk about a year ago. Was anybody there?
We were there.
Yeah. And so we sampled a lot of whole grains, and those were a couple of them that I had not had before then, and they're really different and they're really good. So there's also some really nice mixtures on the market. You can find them packaged together, so it'll be like brown rice and quinoa or lentils or something. So you can find a combination, and those are quite good because it gives you a little bit of a texture and flavor profile. So, yeah.
What's your version of cold cereal?
Cold cereal. So things like Cheerios. Cheerios are made out of, they are a whole grain cereal. So Cheerios are really good. They're just like having oatmeal, almost the same. And then there's the shredded wheat squares are really good. What you want to watch with cold cereal is watch the added sugar. Yeah. And the rest of it's good, yeah. So the first thing you want to do is look at, you want on the label, on the side of the label, it'll say whole something. If it's a grain, like whole oats, whole wheat, whole corn, anything like that, then it's going to be a whole grain product. So that's, you want to, that first word on the ingredient list should be whole, okay? Then you want to make sure that sugar is down in the ingredient list. When do I do label reading? Is it next month?
Yes.
Is it next month?
Yeah.
So be sure to be here next month. We'll learn all about label reading. But what you want to do is you want sugar to be as far down in that ingredient list as possible, because the ingredients are listed according to how much their percentage in that item. So the most is up here in the top of the ingredient list, and the least is down here. So you want to see that sugar is as far down that ingredient list as possible. But other than that, whole grain cereals are really good, as are whole grain crackers. Now, what do you need to watch for in crackers? The salt and the oil. So you want to watch for where the oil is. I find that Triscuits, I like Triscuits for a whole grain cracker that's just a normal whole grain cracker. If you go to places like Sprouts or Trader Joe's, you can find other whole grain crackers that are really good too. The other thing that I have found, and I found this because of looking for things that are gluten-free, there are a lot of crackers in the cracker aisle that are gluten-free, but they are also like nuts and things like rice and corn that are they're gluten-free grains, but they're really healthy. So just kind of watch in the cracker aisle, the regular cracker aisle, and look for those other kind of alternative crackers. Okay.
Kathy, what about bran, Raisin Bran?
Raisin Bran, anything like that, once again, you want to watch the label to make sure that it doesn't have a lot of added sugar. But Raisin Bran, bran flakes, those are also really good, especially for their fiber content. Anything else? Yeah.
I just want to say something about cold oatmeal. And my sister recommended it to me, and I said, ew. And then I tried it, and it's really good. And the chunkier it is, the better. Like, you know, it has raisins or nuts and things like that.
Okay.
But it's a nice thing to have this time of year. It's really hot.
Yeah, okay. So there's a good thing about cold oatmeal. So lots of chunks in it, so make sure you put nuts, raisins, things, fruit, like apples maybe, and
Nuts contain phytochemicals?
no, they probably do have some, but yeah, but they're not a really great source. But nuts are a really good source for your healthy fats. Omega-3s, they have a lot of protein. The thing with nuts is you have to remember portion size. As with anything that is high in fat, is just the portion size. But they are such a good source of protein, and the fat that is in nuts is heart healthy. So I say enjoy nuts. I think everyone should have some nuts every day, just a handful, just because of those heart healthy fats. So an ounce is about the size of the palm of my hand, not everybody's hand, but mine.
What about peanuts, which are not a nut, I guess, but
The peanuts
where
are
do they fit in that?
peanuts are legumes. So peanuts are in that legume family that we talked about. So they do have more phytonutrients than just other nuts that tree nuts would. They also are heart healthy fat. So they're good. They're also very high in protein. With the peanuts, once again, what do we watch for? The salt.
Sodium.
Watch for the portion size and then watch for salt. So you want to get peanuts that are roasted but not salted.
They're lousy.
They are kind of lousy. So what you do is you watch if you want to enjoy salted peanuts in moderation, and then watch the salt in the rest of your diet. And that's what I say. The other thing you can do with some of the nuts, if you don't like them if they're not salted, is to toast them with a little bit of olive oil and then some herbs and maybe some, spices. If you want them sweet, use a little bit of like some olive oil, a little bit of brown sugar, and then some cinnamon, and make them sweet and just roast them in the oven. If you like them more savory, a little bit of olive oil and then some maybe cayenne pepper or some garlic or something like that to make them more flavorful. Nuts are also really good on top of your salad. So think about your nice salad full of phytonutrients. So we're going to have lots of spinach let's build a salad.
Chard.
Strawberries.
Swiss chard, spinach, strawberries, cucumbers, blue cheese, nuts, cherry tomatoes. There you go. So anyway, build a better salad. Pay attention to your antioxidants, and come and see me again next month. You've been a pleasure.